Alright, so because a lot of people asked, in this video, I'm going to be doing a money guide. So how to make more money according to the evidence. And yeah, disclaimer, I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear. So some of you will feel bad after this video. That's fine. The point of this video is not to make you feel good. It's to tell you what the evidence says. Number one, get a useful degree. So there's probably a lot of people here that want to make as much money as possible right now because they want to get surgeries to fix their objective phalos and they're desperate. And I'm in favor of fixing your objective phalos. The problem is you need to think long term. If you do have a useful college degree, then yeah, go make the money. But if you don't, focusing on money right now instead of education can leave you stranded in a minimum wage job for your entire life. And I don't think having a rhinoplasty 3 or 4 years earlier compensates having a bad job for the rest of your life. In other words, I'm just saying that you should think long term. You should think what is the best option for your long-term self, because 3 to 4 years, they pass by anyway. So you want to make the choices that maximize your life over the long term, not just you now. So here's a few stats. So the higher you go up in education, on average, the more money you make, the lower the chance you are to be unemployed, and the easier it is to enter the job market. So the more competitive the job market gets, the more it's worth it to have higher education. So for example, if you have a master's, you're already in the top 11%, meaning that if you're competing against people that have a bachelor's or less, you have a good chance of standing out and actually getting the job, for example. That's one of the benefits. Other benefits are, for example, you make connections. And the type of connections that you make in useful college degrees are typically way more valuable than average connections outside of it. So I think at the very least, you should have a useful bachelor's degree. But in an ideal scenario, in 2026 and over, because of ATS filters and just the nature of online job applications, I think just to be safe, you should have at least a master's so that you stand out from the competition. But again, it's still much, much better than nothing to have a useful bachelor's. It's just that the job market is kind of like the dating market, where instead of women, you have companies receiving a ton of applications, so they have to pick the best ones. And you're going to have a better chance if you have a master's while everyone else has a bachelor's. So for most people, I would try to aim for a generalist bachelor's and a specialized master's. Here are some of the fields that I think are good ideas, for example. But there are many others. Here are other examples when it comes to useful degrees. Here's a few stats. 88% of millionaires have a college degree in the USA, and 84% of billionaires have a college degree. So when you hear about people dropping out of college and becoming millionaires, that's the exception, not the rule. Here's a few more stats, and basically having a college degree, having high education, is a huge predictor of inequality. And the higher percentage of people in a certain ethnic group that have a college degree, the higher the probability that that group is doing fine. So if, for example, Black Americans want to bridge the gap between them and the others, they're going to have to focus more on high education. Ideally, useful college degrees, not useless ones. So even at 35, it's still worth it mathematically to get a useful college degree. You're going to have a few stressful years to have a better quality job and a much higher income for the rest of your life, which will be the vast majority of your life. Because even by 30, let's say, you still have the vast majority of your life ahead of you anyway. So you should think long term. Number 2, invest part of your salary every month. Ignore all the hype, focus mainly on real estate and S&P 500. However, for most people, I would recommend the S&P. Hedge funds, they hire high IQ guys with PhD all the time with the goal of trying to beat the market, and they still fail almost 100% of the time. What makes you think you're better? So here's the hedge funds compared to the S&P 500, and they consistently underperform the S&P. Here's another graph, and here are more stats. So basically, the S&P consistently outperforms hedge funds, even though the hedge funds are full of high IQ people with PhDs in math and in finance, and they still cannot beat the market. So you're probably not better than them. And basically try to save as much as you can without having a shit life of your salary every month and put it into an S&P 500 ETF. Choose Vanguard if you're in the US, and choose an index fund like this one that tracks the S&P, and use Interactive Brokers if you're in Europe. Number 3, don't fall for the just start a business trap. So basically, almost 100% of businesses fail, especially the online ones. Online, you're constantly exposed to outliers. And in real life, the average age of a successful startup owner is 45, even in Silicon Valley, where you would think that everyone is young. And the reason why is because you need a ton of knowledge and experience to make a business work. But if you do decide to start a business, it's still smart to have a backup plan and to have something that gives your days structure. So a lot of entrepreneurs, they say they work 12 hours a day, but in reality, they're just doing a bunch of useless tasks, and they're just taking way longer to accomplish tasks because they have all day to work. That's a bad idea. It's better to have a job or be doing a college degree and then to give yourself 1 or 2 hours a day to work on a business. And your productivity is not even going to be compromised because of what is called the Parkinson's law, which means that time expands relative to the time you have. So when you have less time, you work faster and more efficiently. When you have more time, you do the opposite. Therefore, even if you want to start a business, it's still probably a good idea to either have a job or to be doing a useful college degree and to do your business on the side, partially because you want to have a backup plan and partially because you want to give your day structure. And it's not going to hurt you that much anyway, because when people have all day to work, they take all day to work. And when people only have 2 hours, they only take 2 hours. And yeah, let me know if you like this video because I can make more tips when it comes to money maxing. And yeah, join the Skool community if you want. And that's pretty much it for this one.